We're pleased to have Ibrahim Jackson, Senior Executive Director of Business Relationship Management for a Fortune 500 cosmetic company, with us today to present IT Business Relationship Management for Success. If you could make your selection on this polling question, we'll be closing the polls. Okay, and we have a tie, Ibrahim. So we've got 31% with the burning desire and 31% with qualifying the benefits. And we've got 23% exploring, 7 not there yet, and 8 not applicable.
Wonderful.
Oh, and we have a qualification here from Bob, and Bob says actually the BRMI is located in New York. How handy.
Oh, that's excellent. So I definitely haven't looked at it, but will, since it's right in my own backyard.
There you go, right, exactly. And here's our third polling question. What is the single biggest challenge between IT and your lines of business? Is it budgets, communications, measuring performance, process adoption, or project prioritization, or other? And if it's other, if you could just chat in what the other is, that would be helpful for us. Now, during the presentation, the information that Ibrahim presents may raise some questions, or you may be looking for some additional clarification or information. We've scheduled time at the end of today's session to answer your questions. To submit your questions, just use the chat window that appears on the GoToMeeting box, which is located in the upper right corner of your screen. Open your chat window by clicking on the plus sign next to the word chat, and just type your question in the chat log section and click the send button. And please feel free to submit your questions at any time during today's presentation. We've got a large number of attendees for the session, and Ibrahim has a lot to cover. So we'll answer as many questions as we can with you today, but all of them will be included in our Q&A report that we'll send you the link for in just a couple of days. Okay, let's see. All right, here are the results. 34% are process adoption or project prioritization is the biggest challenge. 32% is communications. And then there's a tie for third between budgets and measuring performance. And let's see, I have a few chat in on others. So some of the other challenges that people are having here, getting higher management to allocate resources out of a small ITSM office, current roles and operation duties. The challenge is resource contention. Who tells people what to do? So those are 2 that we have.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all so much for sharing that information with us to give Ibrahim a better sense of today's audience. Now we're ready to get started. For those of you new to ITSM Academy, here's a quick overview. ITSM Academy is a full-service provider of ITSM education. We've trained tens of thousands of students on site across the Americas and in our public training centers in Fort Lauderdale, Dallas, Minneapolis, Phoenix, Reston, Salt Lake City, and Tampa, as well as in our virtual classrooms. Now let's introduce today's speaker, Ibrahim Jackson. Ibrahim is Executive Director of Business Relationship Management, BRM, for a Fortune 500 cosmetic company which engages in the manufacture, marketing, and sale of skincare, makeup, fragrance, and hair care products worldwide. Currently, the company is made up of 28 prestigious and luxury brands with distribution in over 150 countries and territories, with over $9.71 billion in gross revenue for fiscal year 2012. In 2007, Ibrahim took responsibility for bridging and sustaining a strong relationship between cosmetics and fragrance brands with global information services. GIS is the corporate function that delivers all information technology services and solutions for the company. He's primarily responsible for delivering value through innovative solutions that help drive top-line business growth while striking a delicate balance between policy, business process optimization, and technology. He delivers business results by managing total cost of ownership through right sourcing and leveraging internal IT subject matter experts along with established and emerging third-party suppliers. In addition to his role as BRM, it requires him to be a change agent while the company embarks on their largest transformation of systems to a global ERP platform. Good morning, Ibrahim.
Good morning, Karen, and thank you for that introduction. Thank you very much. So, to get started, what I'd like to do is just share an overview with everyone about business relationship management and really start off with how you kind of get there. So, obviously you have drivers. There's some history among IT organizations and what they do. I'll give you a little description of how we see business relationship management and how it fits into the ITIL process, and then some of the positives and negatives. And I love this information graphic here, or this picture, because basically what it implies is that the things that got us where we are today are not necessarily the things that are going to get us to where we want to be in the future. And that's one of the real key drivers. IT organizations over time have, for whatever reason, become very, very technical to the point where many organizations find that their IT firms are more interested in working on the tools and the applications, etc., rather than really looking at how can the business be enabled, how can the business be empowered through the technologies. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't have fun with the technology by any means. You need to have fun. You need to enjoy it. You should love the work that you do. It's just that it should also support the long-term strategic focus and goals of the organization. The way that we look at business relationship management today is that an individual has, in this role, has to be able to do two things. They need to be a double deep professional, being able to see both the business values as well as the values of the IT or IS organization. You need to be able to translate between the two organizations, and we like to refer to Greek mythology, where you look at Janus the god, who has two faces, one pointing to the left, one pointing to the right. And that's because that individual, Janus, needed to be able to see the future as well as the past. And with you in this VRM role, you need to be able to say, hey, I understand the business, I know what you're doing, I understand exactly what it is through the business language, and be able to convey that information back into your IT organization, while at the same time understanding what some of the points you brought up, resource constraints, constraints against what your budgets are, being able to communicate. You have to be able to get those things back into the business as well. And those come with both strengths and weaknesses, especially when you have a business that's looking to grow rapidly, you have an IT organization that's going through major transformation, there can be some real strong pain points. So, to segue into this, you have to think about how you represent the business into information services. Now, I'm not sure how many people on the phone have actually worked within the business and gone back into IT or vice versa, but it's really understanding exactly the direction that the business is going into and how to best facilitate their needs. And that's where demand management comes into play. You need to be able to help prioritize based on sense of urgency, level of importance. You need to understand what's an actual need, meaning what would stop or hinder our business from running. Those are needs. The ones are kind of those stretch needs to say, hey, I'd like to have this because I see we have some opportunity. And again, where those wants are, it's all about the risk dial. How high up your organization is willing to turn the risk dial in order to take some calculated risk versus another organization who may not be so high on the risk dial. And then the other is, what are those nice to haves, right? Those things that, hey, let's see if we can fail fast, fail cheap, get some lessons learned, and determine whether or not it makes sense to go forward. So by understanding that, you can go back into IT and say, hey, this is what the business is planning to do, and this is what let's get some ideas on the table as to how we can help power and enable this in the future. And I use the word here, strategy convergence, because often I hear this term strategy alignment, and it's a great thing to do, but unfortunately alignment means that hey, business, what are you doing? And hey, we'll just follow you. Whereas there are opportunities because of the way technology is rapidly evolving where we can actually say, let's converge on the strategy and sit at a round table. I can bring to you ideas and concepts of technology that you can then bake into your plan and say, hey, I never thought about that. Maybe now that you brought this technology to the forefront for me, I could potentially leverage that for this. And that's how you actually converge with your business partners. Consumerization is changing the way that we do business. I'm confident I'm not the only individual who has seen bring your own device or anything within the quote-unquote SMAC model. And I only used an acronym, and that's probably the last time I'm going to use an acronym today to describe what's happening. You've got social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. So that's what SMAC is. And that's invading our enterprises. Obviously, my risk mitigation and compliance security groups love to talk about these topics because it's all about trying to secure intellectual property and corporate assets. We don't want those things getting out. But our business units see this as a need, as a convenience, as a new way of doing business. It's where our customers are or where our audience is. We need to be in the same space they are in order to take this universal approach to working with them. So consumerization has a place with us. And then there's also digital. And some organizations are a little more mature in this space where they do have a bridge and a relationship between your digital, e-commerce, IT teams, and some do not and have them a bit more siloed or segregated. That piece there, we still need to be able to understand what's happening in digital and be able to go to the business and tell them how we can help them as an IT organization. So your role as the BRM is to be able to take that in and then bring that back into information services. Next, it's about taking what you know within information services, working with your subject matter experts within information services and taking that back into the business. Being able to communicate and collaborate in a language that they understand, right? The worst thing we can do is go into a business partner and say to them a whole bunch of things about information technology and they have no idea what we're talking about. This is a core strength of the business relationship manager where they're able to say, information technology is doing the following. Let me explain that to you in your business terms. I can't go to the business and say, hey, I have a Gantt chart that you need to take a look at. They'll have no idea what we're talking about in some organizations. But if I do go and say, hey, you know your marketing calendar and how you produce marketing plans on a periodic basis? Well, let me show you what our marketing plan is for the new tools that we have in place that we're getting ready to put within the organization. Now we're talking the same language. And that's where you want to educate and reinforce the process. Process sometimes is hard to be adopted in an organization just because a lot of organizations have grown organically. So they're just now trying to get their hands around it. For those who are completed their transformations and looking on to new things, anyone who's lived through it kind of knows what that's about. But the BRM is there to help people understand we have a new way that we're going to do business, again, in order for us to get to where we want to be in the future. So if it's about driving your revenue higher or it's expanding your channels of distribution, these are the things that the BRM can be leveraged for. Your service catalog and application portfolio are key tools in order to delivering that success. So if you think about it today and going back a little bit to consumerization, your service catalog is just like the App Store in any one of your favorite platforms, whether it be Android, Apple, RIM, Windows, any of these other organizations. And when you go in, you look and say, hey, there's an application, and that's what I needed to do. I needed to take pictures, and I click on this little chiclet, and it works, right? If information technology has a similar, not necessarily the same, but a similar tool in place, this can mitigate the risk of shadow IT firms, which I know none of us have, that go out and say, well, I need a new application, and I grab it. And what ends up happening is information services has to support multiple applications that actually execute the same, if not very similar thing. And that's where the application portfolio is key. The service catalog, same thing. Well, tell me, IT, what do you do from a services perspective? Whether it's large file transfer, hosting of this, etc. We have to be able to come to the business with our offering just as if you went into a restaurant and ordered off the menu. You would know what you want because it's right there in front of you. You would know what it costs, and you know whether or not it's something you're willing to pay for. And then project 2 portfolio management is really the lifeblood of your organization. Anyone who executes on portfolio, project, and program management the best, I think all BRMs will attest that that is the key partner and relationship that you want to have. Because if you have strong PMs that can deliver on projects, you can show value quickly. So, also, as a BRM, you have to realize everyone's tuned into one radio station and one radio station only. And that's the What's in It for Me station, WIIFM. And for them, the business wants to know, well, tell me, what's new in technology? And again, how is this applicable to my business? If I'm talking to you about cosmetics technology and I work for a sports and entertainment business, it may not be applicable. So that's not in it for them. But you do want to be able to align those technologies with the business, be able to have competitive insight. So what is it that my competition is doing? If I'm in a manufacturing firm, is there someone who's executing a Six Sigma program that's doing it a little more efficiently than me because they've kind of made it unique to their organization? How can I get some better learnings around that so that I'm able to gain some competitive advantage through that insight? The other is having financial transparency. It strikes many of us as kind of odd that we can do chargebacks or allocations or any of these great things and not really tell the business, well, this is how I can reduce your cost or how I can increase it. Am I doing it based on user count? Am I doing it based on PC count? Am I doing it about specific service? Is it about specific programs, specific projects? Is it a shared service model? All of those great things, but the business really looks for that financial transparency so they can determine whether or not do I ramp up or do I bring it down. And again, back to consumerization, with these software as a service models and infrastructure as a service models, it's putting a lot of pressure on your IT organization to have that transparency, because today I know that if I go to my favorite host provider, I can get X amount of storage for X amount of dollars per month with X amount of traffic at this specific cost. Tell me, how are you competing and being the vendor of choice when I come to sourcing the technology I need? And a lot of this does come around governance. You may have a strong executive body that states, well, there are certain things that we're going to do through our internal technology firm that you do not have an option of going outside for, regardless of cost competitiveness. And then obviously security. That's what your organizations are looking for from not only the BRM but the entire IT organization. All we're saying here is not necessarily build a castle around a pond with no bridge to get out. It's just we want to have limited access beyond the velvet rope, right? It's a club, it's a party. Hey, all these great things are going on inside of our organization, but we don't necessarily want everyone in attendance, okay? Because some people may not be fit for the organization. Some information should not get out of the organization. Certain people within the organization should not have access. So even if we let you into the party, there is a VIP area, right, where there is very secure information. And if you're a publicly traded firm, you know this so too well, that certain information has to be retained. Certain information cannot go out, whether it has to do with personally identifiable information or the credit card, payment card industry laws. You have to keep all of those things into consideration. And I didn't get the demographic on what our audience is, but even if you're in the healthcare field, you have to think about the HIPAA laws, and I apologize, I don't remember what that acronym stands for, but I know that it's important. And then you have to really assess your organization and say, okay, these are the things that we can do. And these are the things that we can do internally. We've got core strengths, core capabilities here. But if we really, really need to grow, and if we really, really need to be agile, we need to look at where our third-party suppliers can help take us. What can they do that we can't do internally, or it just is more practical to do outside of our organization rather than inside of our organization, and still meet the quality standards that is expected by our business partners. The BRM should play a key role along with your vendor management or procurement office that says, hey, these are qualified solutions, these are qualified solution partners. Because of the way global is just rapidly exploding, and everyone inside of a garage is not necessarily Michael Dell, but they're developing these apps, and you have 26-year-old high school dropouts making $260 million for their idea being acquired by a large IT firm, a large technology firm. Everyone wants to be in the game, but not everyone is suitable to work with your enterprise. Again, it all depends. If you're an SMB, you may be able to turn your risk dial up and do a lot more because it won't hurt your organization as much. If you're a large enterprise customer that's in the multi-billion-dollar frame, then you may have to just do a little more due diligence as you go about vetting these organizations. And the BRM should work closely and align with that, because if you have a person that's only about finance or a person that's only about contracts but doesn't really understand capabilities, they can be sold easily. Hey, we've got a very low price point and we can deliver exactly what you want. That sounds great to legal, it sounds great to the finance individuals, but not necessarily to the subject matter experts that, one, have to make sure that this gets delivered, and two, may end up having to support this thing going down the road. So as the BRM, you kind of act as that chief information officer for those specific business units by bridging all of those stakeholders together in one common place to say, hey, this is how we're going to deliver additional value to the organization, and the subject matter experts we need from technology, I have them, and also let's make sure that the other players, such as legal and all the other entities, are in play. And how do you truly measure your success? You know the business loves you when they help you get strategically aligned with them. I'm not sure how many people on the call or are already in BRM roles actually see the strategies of their organization. If their organization has a defined and written strategy, not just the things that go into the break area, but written strategies that say, this is what we're going to do, this is where we're going to win, this is how we're going to play in the field, this is the kind of penetration that we want to have in X amount of markets, this is how we want to expand growth, this is how we want to have more visibility of our organization, more impressions, etc. If you're getting those strategies, then you know that the business is willing to work with you. Okay? There's some expectations there, that there's some responsiveness, that you are able to go in and identify certain things. So if the business says, hey, I've got this blue sky idea, I want to do this, the BRM has to have knowledge to say, okay, in theory or in principle, that sounds great. I'm not looking to be a roadblock. I just want to help you understand what you're signing up for. And then you can explain what those risks are. You can explain what some additional investment would be going down the road, depending, again, on how large it is. Sometimes you have to actually take all of that in and then say, hey, I have to get back to you because there are some flags that are raising, but I don't want to stop the creative juices from flowing right now. So let me take this information, work with my teams, and then I'll get back to you with some of the things that should be considered. And this also happens when you're doing mergers and acquisitions. As you're doing M&As, there goes an acronym, as you're doing M&As, you go out and they say, hey, I want to acquire this sort of organization. Well, from a technology perspective, depending on how you're positioned, that may not be feasible or practical. Okay? So there are things there. Reliability. That is key. You can do as many things as you want to, but if you're not doing it in a timely fashion or you're not doing it efficiently, then trust me, your success metric will be, the metrics of success for you will be very low, very, very low. And I spoke to inclusion. You'll be included in certain business-related activities that traditionally IT or IS, Information Services, Information Technology, have not been a part of. And then the other thing is that your opinion is valued. As my own personal example, I was in a meeting one day explaining to an executive team, and by the way, I should have mentioned this early on, business relationship managers should be sitting at the table with the top leadership, okay? General manager -1. Because that's, and again, it depends on how your organization works. If you're a flat organization, you may get away with being a few levels down, but typically you want your BRM to be at the top of the, working with the people at the top of the org chart so that that information then trickles down throughout the pyramid. I sat in a meeting once, to go back to valued opinion, and I was explaining to a business unit who wanted to do some technology things that, hey, well, this is what it's going to cost you. We've got all of our ducks lined up. We've got the scope defined. We know what the investment is going to be, both from a capital and expense perspective. And then I was challenged by someone in marketing. And everyone in IT knows how much marketing and IT get together, right? And love each other dearly. But I was challenged by someone in marketing, and to me, I said, okay, that's fine. Someone else in the creative group said, well, hey, Ibrahim told you this is what it is. What are you going to do? Go check on eBay for a better price? And I apologize for the name drop on that. But are you going to go check on there for a better price? No, this is his field. He knows it. This is what it costs. So that's a valued opinion. When the business is saying that on your behalf, without me, again, internally I was just laughing hysterically. But, you know, I kept a straight face. But the business is actually the group that went in and represented for me in that same meeting with senior leadership to say, no, he knows what he's doing. This is his lane. Just as marketing will focus on their 4 Ps to execute, just as creative will focus on design and all of those elements, just like sales are going to look at numbers and how things are being reflected, how markets are being penetrated. Ibrahim is our technology lead, and he's the expert in this field. You need to get to that status. And I'll get into maturity of the BRM, but that's the key place that you want to be, where you're operating at a peer level rather than passive promoter or partner. Oh, and there's a great segue to it. So I borrowed this from Leading Edge Forum, which you can also find their deck on this online. And it just talks about the maturity of the business relationship management role. It goes from passive to provider to partner to peer, and I believe they've changed provider to actually be promoter. But I think it's easy for all of us to digest in information technology because most of us have a left brain and we love these kind of graphs. Primarily, you're managing your supply, managing your application portfolio or your service portfolio, and being an order taker if you are sitting in that passive role. Basically, the business asks you a question and you respond, here it is. That's it. Very, very, very reactive. Very reactive. When you're actually managing the demand, that's when you're having that opportunity to say, I'm not going to tell you no, but you may want to heavily consider what you're doing. And I can provide you the things that you need. I know the things that you need. I'm just not sure it's the right fit for you. What I want to do is just make sure that we're properly aligned, etc. But being in a provider or a promoter role is a lot better than living in that passive role. In the partner role, this is great because now you have joint goals. And I would encourage anyone that's on the call that may not actually be in information technology, but may be considering a business relationship management role, if there's a way to tie the goals and objectives, whether it be just a performance on skill or performance on compensation, that gives both sides incentive on how to move forward. Because you are now operating as a change agent as the BRM, or if you're looking to build a BRM organization, you are creating change agents there, and they should be tied into the same metrics that everyone else within your organization are working toward. And I think this would be a really strong goal. Again, you know, you got to be that double deep professional, one that's on the business side, another that's on the technology side. And you want to have the joint goals. And then, but at that level, when you heard me speak about strategic alignment earlier, this is exactly what it's referring to. Partner role. You want to be strategically aligned. That's great. You've got respect. Hey, I know you're the go-to guy. How you doing, Ibrahim? We're looking to do some things. This is our strategy. How do we go about achieving that? No problem. Let me consider it, think about it, talk to some people, see what we can do, how we can get you where you want to be. I think ultimately everyone looks to be at that peer level. You have a seat at the table. You're sitting with supply chain. You're sitting with marketing. You're sitting with the general manager, your heads of sales. If you're a global company, international sales. You're sitting with creative. You're sitting with your global communications team. And you're all sitting there collaborating collectively on how do we take our business to the next level. Everybody throws some ideas. I mean, that's really what the general manager loves to do. Who's got some great ideas? What can we do? How do we get there? And when you're operating at that peer level, you're shaking hands at that peer level, it's a great seat to be in. And now, if you're a BRM that's supporting multiple functions, departments, brands, etc. within your organization, you may be at different levels with different departments, brands, functions, etc. within your organization. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to take you with open arms initially. Usually you have to prove yourself first, and then they'll say, hey, you know what, you've earned that seat at the table. And I don't think there's anything wrong with actually earning your seat versus being given your seat at the table. So that's a great place to be. Then as a BRM, the strong BRMs anyway, it's about networking. You need to network internal with your business teams. Find out what they're doing. See if there's an opportunity for you to walk in their shoes one day. I think some people on the webcast may find this intriguing, but yes, I work for a cosmetic firm. What I've actually done is gone in store to one of your favorite retailers and sold product at a counter to start to learn exactly what's happening at that point where you're closest to the money. That's what I like to say. Follow the money, track the money. Now, no one wants me to actually put makeup on them, I can tell you that, but if it's skincare or fragrance, I can do a great job at telling you how these products can actually benefit you. But what's great to know is, hey, someone may say a sales associate is only doing this, but guess what? They're only doing this 8 to 10 hours a day standing up, right? Or a person in the field is only doing this, yes, but they're doing that while they're driving from account to account to account to account to account on the road, right? So it's really working with those business teams and getting to know what happens in their world, as well as for your technology side, you want to attend conferences. You just have to be there. If there's anyone on the call who's questioning, well, why does my IT organization or information technology organization always have to go to this conference or that conference? That's the best way for them to learn, because the reality is the web is great. Looking at what friends say or colleagues say about certain products, etc., are great, but the best teacher and mother of all learning, in my opinion, is experience and learning and touching and talking and getting the information that people don't want to post online because they're afraid that they may say something negative and it gets back to them. Or they may hear something positive but don't want to speak to it because they don't want to offend another vendor or partner in the space that they work with. The trade shows are obviously great. You always hear the new things. You get the gadgets. We got some kiosks. We got some whistles and all types of other great things. But again, it's about being around people who are of the same mind and potentially new opportunities that can then again help your business thrive. That's what you want to do there. Another strong space are training centers, just like ITSM Academy. You want to come to this and be a part of those so you can say, well, guess what? If I'm on the call and this individual is on the call, maybe we're kind of in that same spot. And again, my perspective is, listen, where we don't compete, we partner. So while I wouldn't have a conversation necessarily with some of my colleagues in technology that work for other cosmetic firms, I may have someone in manufacturing or someone in the beverages business or someone in the entertainment business to kind of have these discussions and say, hey, we're thinking about doing some things around this. What do you think about that? it's always great to kind of build up that internal network of peers that are on the same page. And then, yes, social media is great. As a BRM, as a professional or any professional, you want to be on things like LinkedIn and the Facebooks and the Twitters to just kind of track and see what's going on. You want to make sure that you're at least making yourself a part of some of the groups in on these potential social media networks, because you'll be intrigued to find out that, guess what, you're not alone at the stage that you're at. Now, some people, you'll say, wow, you've got some catching up to do, and I'm more than happy to share some information. In other instances, you'll say, well, I'm glad to see I'm leading the pack on this, but maybe that's why I may feel so constrained on certain things, because you're starting to go into uncharted territory where the knowledge is very low in terms of how things will get done, because not so many people have done it or are doing it yet. Not necessarily because it's not right. It just may mean that they haven't matured to that level yet. And then this is probably my favorite slide to talk about the bad part, the pitfalls. Acronyms. Worked with point-of-sale organizations and heard the term POS. It didn't dawn on me when I heard point-of-sale, but I heard POS and I thought something totally different. Earlier I talked about ITIL. What is that? What is it? SAP, CRM, D2R, and I heard someone in a meeting say, hey, I'm part of the BI team, D2R, HRIMS, and the business is saying WTF, right? Because they have no idea what you're talking about because you've given them alphabet soup. And I say, yeah, it's, today's actually Thursday, and they're trying to figure out, is it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just for anyone who thought something else on the call. We've got to get away from acronyms. And listen, other parts of the business do it as well. My background was in business management, planning to be an accountant, so I talked about things like GAAP, right, generally accepted accounting principles. But for some reason, information technology gets a brunt of it in terms of using acronyms. And marketing does the same thing with some of the terms that they use. So I wouldn't beat yourself up about it, but when you communicate to the business, I think they'll show more appreciation when you do get away from the acronyms. The other pitfall is being disconnected, okay? Yes, we have these tools and technology. Yes, we can do a webcast. Yes, we can do a video chat, etc. At the end of the day, these are technologies that don't have emotion. We are people. Relationships require people. You need to be able to shake hands, kiss babies, and talk to people and say, what's going on? How are you? And people need to feel that, hey, you know what, this is a good guy. And I feel that this individual has my best interests at heart. Because email, phone calls, etc., it doesn't give you the full experience of the person. It doesn't say, hey, he was genuine. Everything's within the jawline, right? You've got to look and say, okay, is he telling the truth or is he lying? Is his eye cutting somewhere else? Is he just giving me the generic speech? Is he giving me the eye wink like, don't listen to what I'm saying, I'm telling you this because my boss is here, meet me after work for drinks and I'll give you the real skinny on what's going on. You can't be disconnected. You want to be there. Again, that speaks to the point of FaceTime. You want to be able to be there, see people, etc. The other is, though, the other point is slow results. Though I don't have the photo up here, I love this graphic, and you can find it on Google, where it has this turtle that's probably an inch away from the finish line. And that's, hey, we're almost there, but never quite completing. That is one of the worst things that you can do for a business unit, because most business units are measured to getting things completed. I've got a marketing campaign. Guess what? That artwork has to be approved and published and put out. It's completed and done. Right? I have sales results. I need to hit this target, and I need to hit 100%. If I don't hit 100% or over, then I'm not in good shape. When IT does this, it's, guys, you are bringing our business to a crawl. You are killing us. So you have to be able to get to results and get to results quickly. It cannot be done slowly. And then again, lack of an agenda. I was watching a Wharton channel on YouTube, and I was looking at one of our leaders talk about what is probably the most important thing. And he said, It's your calendar. Your calendar is the most important thing, because if you don't have control of your calendar, then you don't have control. And so that's how all of these executives are thinking. And if you want to grab 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 2 hours of their time, you better have an agenda. You better be able to speak to the points that you're looking to get covered. You better have an idea in the back of your mind where you'd like to see them go or what the options are for that meeting. Have an agenda. I love when I get an appointment for 2 hours and it only has a subject. We want to talk about this. I often decline it or send it tentative and say, just make sure you send me the agenda, because I usually build my own personal calendar in 15-minute increments. I don't mind someone saying, hey, I just need 15 minutes of your time, and not having the agenda fully baked into the appointment, because I know, hey, this is something we can make some quick decisions, and it's better to make a decision with 2 people in the room than, you know, an entire governing body of 50. So I don't mind that, but the 2-hour meetings that only have a subject, they either get declined or set to tentative. So that's something that you want to do. You want to be considerate of people's time, and people will respect you. And what I love is when I say, listen, I just need 15 minutes, and they take me over. It's okay for someone else to take you over time from the business side, but for you to just keep dragging on and on and on about things, trust me, the business has more than just information technology to think about in order to support their organization. And then this right here, the last slide, innovation. Right now, it's up in the air about chief information officer, chief digital officer, chief data officer, and that's because as information technology has evolved, some of us have been very reluctant to move forward into the space we created, right? We need to be able to go to the business with innovative ideas about technology. And those ideas need to be answers to the questions of what's missing, how is it different, how do we see real tangible results, and that tangible result can come in the form of currency, that tangible result can come in the form of presence, being somewhere else. And then the best question to always ask your business unit is, if this, what does success look like? Because once you know what success looks like, you could begin to build your projects and programs around that and develop your metrics in order to get there. And obviously, lessons learned. What did you learn? And what can you teach in the future so that we don't make the same mistakes, or so that we can leverage again and be even more successful? That's where you want to be with innovation. And with that, as a relationship manager would do, or any great relationship manager would do, I'm not here to just download to you, it's also here to help. So if there's anything that I can answer that would help you in your success journey, I'm more than happy to. Thank you. Karen?
Thank you, Ibrahim. That was just such an invigorating and exciting presentation. We have, they're chatting in lots of great presentations. Thank you so much. Great information, as well as questions. So I just wanted to let you know that you're getting a lot of accolades in the background here on the chat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. A couple of things before we get into the Q&A. Lisa Schwartz, our co-founder of ITSM Academy, is here to share some information with us. Hello, Lisa.
Hi. Thank you so much. That was a fantastic presentation. My whole team's Twitter was just blowing up with it. You're a very quotable man, may I say. And I just, as Karen's getting those questions together and we're giving everyone an opportunity to ask a couple more, we have some big announcements here at the Academy that I wanted to share with everyone. For those of you that are familiar to the Academy, you'll know that we've been delivering the ITIL life cycle classes in the virtual classroom for quite a while now. We are rolling out our new learning management system, which is going to allow us to take the ITIL capability and our certified process design engineer classes into the virtual classroom. So I'm hearing a virtual yay from all of you that have been asking for this. We have dates set. The CPDE virtual class is going to kick off on August 25th. It will run from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and the pre-work and engagement will be done through the new LMS system. Our CV date is set for September 30th, OSA for November 4th. If you have any questions, you want any information, you can go to Pat Buda, pbuda at itsmacademy.com or info@itsmacademy.com. And I apologize because, you know, we usually have a very strict sort of no selling policy on the webinars, but so many of you have been asking for us to do this for so long that I was just excited about it and had to share. Karen, did I give you enough time? You ready to go?
I am, Lisa, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before we start the Q&A, I know some of you will drop off around noontime. So just before we get to there, I just want to remind everybody that our next webinar is scheduled for Thursday, June 27th at 11 a.m. And Jane Grohl, co-founder of ITSM Academy, will present Should You Establish a Service Management Office? And as more organizations are formalizing their service management practices, many have considered or are considering the creation of a service management office. Similar to a project management office, the SMO centralizes the oversight and integration of service management processes to ensure the alignment and effective and efficient outcomes of service delivery and support. In this session, Jane will provide a practical overview of concepts, benefits, opportunities, and threats associated with developing an SMO, regardless of an organization's size, industry, or scope. And since a successful SMO is built on roles and responsibilities, she will also share tips for identifying, combining, assigning, and managing key roles. So we're looking forward to that presentation. All right, so Ibrahim, are you ready for some questions?
Yes, I am, gladly.
Okay. One just for clarification, Phil was asking about the SMAC, S-M-A-C, and was that social, mobile, analytics, and cloud?
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And Perry is asking, how can you show business and IT management the value of BRM? How do you measure value?
That's a great question. Was that Perry or Terry?
Perry with the P.
Perry. That's a great question, Perry. A lot of it, though I know you don't want to hear this, is around there are soft metrics with respect to surveys. I had to hesitate before I said it, but it's around surveys and getting those qualitative metrics back. If you really want to get hard metrics, which some companies are a little shy of doing, is that you can align your BRM to specific projects that fall underneath the business that have heavy IT capabilities tied to them. And then based on the metrics for that project being successful, you could then tie those into your BRM so that you're getting both the tangible and intangible metrics. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. And Perry has another question for you. What are the largest threats to the BRM function?
Sure. Well, Perry, the largest threats to the BRM organization is that there's a number of them. It's often your internal BRM, your internal information technology team that may have already had a relationship with individuals within the business that were very, very direct. As the BRM, because you are now that primary point of contact, not the service desk, not a floor analyst, not tell me how my BlackBerry works, but hey, Ibrahim, you're our mini CIO. These are some of the business challenges we're having. When you come back to your IT organization, it seems as though sometimes it feels you're too far over to the business side. And then when you go to the business side, you kind of get the same thing from teams that are starting to explore technology and think that they have more knowledge around technology than you would because some of their peers in the industry are at that level with technology. So you kind of get it from both sides. So I would really say that the threat, and I wouldn't even say it's the threat, it's really just an evolution within your organization, is for your IT organization to get in lockstep that, hey, we've got someone on the front end that's going to work in our best interest, and at the same time, he's working in the best interest of the organization and helping in that space.
Thank you. Here's just a couple of comments. Bob just kind of chimed in on when you were asking about HIPAA, that HIPAA stands for the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, and that it deals with protecting medical information and controlling access. And Omar chatted in, and he said, very good presentation indeed. He said it's interesting how even in healthcare we seem to be aiming for the same goals.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I have a question here from Leslie. First of all, great job. She said, high energy and inspiring. And then she said, with all of your brands, you have the opportunity to pilot certain BRM ideas that can show proof of concept or value and then roll out, correct?
I wouldn't say all. I would say there are a great amount.
Okay. And then she goes on to say, can you advise others on the call with how to start showing value in a BRM type role? You know, where should they start?
Absolutely. Well, Leslie, what I would say is that what you want to do is that there's a pyramid that we work off of, and again, I had to keep this presentation succinct, is that the first thing is to build that relationship. I mean, that's really what it is. You've got to go on 51st dates and really get to know the business and say hi, shake hands, what do you do? I'm in information technology, and I just want to know what your pain points are. Tell me what's going on, or hey, I see where the company's headed, and anything I can do to help, I want to help you get there. Now, the first things will be, well, make sure the service desk answers my questions, or my BlackBerry doesn't work, but make sure this person responds to my break fix in this amount of time. But you'll get past that. But you got to build that relationship layer first. And then from there, you want to build what's known as a knowledge base so that you have something to tap back into. If one part of the organization is having a challenge, you can, and you resolve it. And again, that's ITIL problem management, root cause analysis, et cetera, known issues. Take that and then share it with this other business department that may be having an issue that the other one didn't have, that the other one did have. And then the next thing that you want to do is the next tier of that is about being strategically aligned and being able to say, hey, now you know who I am. We have this great relationship. Not only do you like me, not only do you know that I'm knowledgeable, but you also feel that, hey, I'm the person that can help you achieve some of the goals that you want. And then the top of that pyramid obviously is innovation, where and it's kind of a push-pull where you're bringing technology in and the business is bringing technology to you and say, hey, I read this on a plane. I'm not quite sure what it does, but it seems interesting. Can you give me your perspective on it? So if you mentioned brands, I'm under the impression, Leslie, that you're in a marketing capacity or at a firm that does marketing. If that's the case, just look at it as push and pull, right? So you do push marketing when you're on television, right? And you kind of say, push all this content out. I've got to attract people in to purchase my product, and then when they get into the environment to actually get that product, then you kind of pull them in with whatever the experience is. And you do the same thing within your internal business units. That was a bit long-winded, but I hope that was comprehensive enough to help you.
That was great information, Ibrahim. Thank you. And here's a question for you from Vaughn. And Vaughn is asking, to what degree is your role consistent with the ITIL-defined BRM role?
I would say it's very consistent with, but I would say it's a bit more enhanced. I don't have the definition in front of me. I don't have my ITIL book in front of me right now. But when they talk about it in ITIL, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here because I haven't looked at it since V3 or early V3. It talks about business relationship management being a part of service management, and that you have some account management capabilities, whereas you look at your internal business partners as accounts. So we do have that, right? But in addition to that, I think you can't necessarily take any of these disciplines, whether it's Prince, ITIL, PMI, etc., word for word. You kind of have to tailor it to your organization because, again, they're just frameworks. So the BRM role that I'm in today, I would say closely aligns to it. It does not create barriers to what the ITIL, the books in ITIL have where it says the BRM only does this. Because if that was the case, then yes, of course, you would definitely have a difficult time showing value in terms of the account management side of it. I hope that answers your question, Vaughn.
And to kind of parlay that, Eileen, and I think it may be the same answer, but Eileen was asking, do you have a couple of BRM frameworks or models that we could leverage for LA County? We're new to BRM, and we would like to propose a BRM model that suits our IT environment. Our customers are the other 40-plus county departments. So you're saying they need to kind of look at all that and kind of customize?
Yeah, you've got to take stock of your organization because it's not a one-size-fits-all. So you've got to take stock of your organization and then determine how you want to align. Do you align and have functional BRMs that then report into specific agencies? Right? Mm-hmm. So I don't want to give you and say, hey, this is the framework or here are 4 frameworks to look at. I think that you want to tailor it to your specific organization.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
And Karen, I'm just going to jump in to say that Jane's topic next month, establishing a service management office, I'm sure she's going to touch some on BRM, and so you gals out in LA County probably want to come to that as well because that might help from a structural perspective.
Yeah, that could be helpful for you, Eileen. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Eileen.
And Harry has a question. He is a new BRM, and it's a new role in his organization. And he's asking, how best can I make myself and my role visible?
Well, Harry, what I would suggest to you is that you've got to look at you as the BRM as your own brand, and you have to market it. Because technology has often sat at the back of the house, so to speak, back office activity, one of the things that the BRM role brings to the table is self-promotion or promotion of your area. So as you gain wins within your portfolio, share that, because that's being proactive when you work with other business units. You share your successes, and that question of what you can do for me, you've already answered. So that is one way to do it. Again, if you're in your infancy, there's some evolution that has to happen with you developing those relationships, having that knowledge base, getting strategically aligned, and then innovating. But you know, when you have some of that going on, you can start talking to the successes and build a story around that and continue to try to build up, continue to build up that portfolio of wins and keep a running list of it. Never get rid of it. I mean, if it's starting today, then, you know, May 23rd of 2013, I hope that's today, make sure you say, this is what I've accomplished today, this is what I've accomplished today. And as you're doing your annual reviews, 1, that helps you justify your own role, theoretically, and then 2, allows you to share that information with your business colleagues. Well, I did this for them, because honestly, it's not until you get your wins that everyone else jumps on the bandwagon. It took a lot of cattle prodding on my side to even have an organization be receptive to project management. I, as a BRM, had to sell project management into certain business units for them to understand the value. And after kicking and screaming, I dragged them into the world of project management. They'll never do another initiative without it. So it speaks for itself. So I hope that helps you. Yeah, you got to do the self-promoting thing, which I know is not typical within IT.
No, but that's great. Great words of wisdom for Harry. Good luck with that, Harry. And we have Jitesh with us today from Bangalore, and asking what qualifies the role of BRM, and how does it differ from service delivery manager?
Absolutely. Well, what qualifies the role as BRM is that it's about being personable. Honestly, I personally would rather grab someone who has very strong soft skills over high-quality tech skills, right? Because the high-quality tech skills I can get through the subject matter experts. I'll invite them to the meeting, right? But if that high technical skill person is, again, going to come to the table and start spewing alphabet soup, that general manager who doesn't really look into all of the weeds are going to say, okay, I'm not quite sure where you're going with that. I may understand what they're saying, but the business does not. I would rather someone who has strong soft skills and can interact, and again, that going back to that term of account management, be able to do that. They need to be able to kind of be a social butterfly. That's your BRM. Your service delivery manager typically lives with infrastructure and operational activities in mind. And again, this may not be universal across all organizations, just what I've seen. So the service delivery manager is more focused on delivering key core metrics to make sure that your interoperability index is being met, that you're meeting the SLAs and service level agreements within your service level management activity. Your service delivery manager is kind of working on those things and should be an enabler to the BRM. So that individual will act as a subject matter expert for those types of activities for you, and that's how I would differentiate the two. Again, I hope that helps for you.
Thank you. Eileen is asking, are there BRM software tools that you can recommend?
No. Okay, I had to come off of mute to laugh at that. And Karen, I'm going to interrupt for 1 second just to say, can you do the 12 o'clock call and then go back to that, please? Thank you.
Okay. Yep. While I do that again, I will give you the next question from Eileen to be thinking about.
Sure.
She wants to know what's the difference between CRM and BRM. So I'll be back to you in a second.
Not to worry. Not to worry. And just to go back to that last question, the reason that I said no to the tools, I've seen companies with 2 letters, few other companies that say, hey, I've got this BRM tool. I would question the level of adoption there. I think that you will have tools that help enable you. You can leverage digital workspaces, whatever your preference is, whether it be Google Docs, SharePoint, etc. Again, I'm not supporting any one of these products, but as an individual, I'm just saying that they're out there. Again, it really comes down to how do you track information today. Maybe you can leverage what's already in your portfolio. Again, we don't want to feed into the organization more tools, more things to manage, more service levels to have around it if we don't need to. If you're already using a system, let's say like Remedy or whatever, use Remedy if that helps you track your tasks and your activities and projects. If you're using Portfolio Manager and all those things for your Gantt charts, etc., do that. If you're using any of the other tools, that could definitely help you. I wouldn't say that there are any tools that are specific to the BRM that I would recommend. Let's be clear, that I would recommend. Are there BRM branded marketing tools that are out there? Yes. Would I recommend them? Not necessarily. In terms of the second question, the difference between a BRM and a CRM, it really depends, because if you're saying CRM, and again, this is where acronyms hurt us all, BRM, business relationship management, CRM, client relationship management, or customer relationship management. Is customer, or even another one, consumer relationship management. If you're referring to it as client relationship management, that just may be the term that's being used in an organization. Typically, customer relationship management, often in the financial vertical, that's usually someone that works within a financial institution and how they interact with clients. Consumer relationship management is often talking about retail types of technology where you're going in, you purchase things, track activity, history, etc. How do I engage? How do I help you embrace more of my products? How do I build loyalty programs around you? So again, it really depends on what CRM means. So let's try to work outside of the acronyms, but those are the 3 paths I would say that one of those should answer your question.
Okay. Thank you, Ibrahim. And we have several more questions for you. And before we continue, I just want to remind people again that our next webinar is scheduled for Thursday, June 27th at 11 a.m. And Jane Groh, co-founder of ITSM Academy, will present Should You Establish a Service Management Office? And this is the one that, Eileen, this is what Lisa was recommending for your group potentially. As more organizations are formalizing their service management practices, many have considered or are considering the creation of a service management office, or an SMO. Similar to a project management office, the SMO centralizes the oversight and integration of service management processes to ensure the alignment and effective and efficient outcomes of service delivery and support. In this session, Jane's going to provide a practical overview, the concepts, benefits, opportunities, and threats that are associated with developing an SMO, regardless of the organization's size, industry, or scope. And since a successful SMO is built on roles and responsibilities, she's also going to share tips for identifying, combining, assigning, and managing key roles. So we do hope you all to join us again next month for Jane's presentation. Now, another question for you, Ibrahim. This is from Diana, and Diana is asking, how often should BRMs be surveying its business customers? Is monthly too often, or is quarterly better received? And by the way, she said, thank you for a great presentation.
Oh, thank you, Diana, and great question. I would say get a pulse of your organization, but if you do it semi-annually, that's great. If you want to do it quarterly, as you start the organization, that would probably be best. I would not do it too frequently, and again, I would not go very heavy on the SurveyMonkey questions and having them do a million things, because we all know the response rates of surveys are very low. So if you do it very infrequently, that would be great. And I'm going to also offer a technique on how to do this. When you send the message, really target the message to the business unit. Dear GM, whoever that is, here's a survey. It'll take 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you have allocated to it. It's a total of X amount of questions. I would really value your feedback. Make it very, very targeted, so one, that you get great response rates, and be very transparent in that communication, however you're going to send it. Even if you're doing an office visit and say, hey, I'm going to shoot you a link for a survey. I really need your help sitting this out. Tell them, please don't just give me praise. Tell me where there are opportunities for me to improve. Because if you do that, you will definitely build even a stronger relationship with your business partner. So to answer the timely question, I would say semi-annual is enough. But if you want to do quarterly as you start to kick off your program, this way you can respond and react faster, you can do that as well.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. That puts some parameters around there. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I have, again, more accolades. Thank you. Great answers. Very informative. Thank you so much, Ibrahim. So you're getting more accolades coming in here on the chat.
Well, thank you.
Mao has a question. Is there or should there be a difference in your BRM efforts dependent on the levels of interaction? So, for example, business consultation versus management consultation.
If you, I'm sorry, Karen, if you can repeat the name and the question one more time.
Okay, the name is Mao.
Mao? Okay.
And the question is there or should there be a difference in your BRM efforts dependent on the levels of interaction? So, for example, business consultation versus management consultation.
Yes, yes, okay, yes, Mao, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. And I wouldn't just say level, I would just say area of interest. Again, this abridged version of my presentation kind of glazes over that. What you want to do is make sure you're addressing the business need and, again, their interests. So part of what you may want to do in your organization is break out a grid and say, this is sales. Here are their top 5 interests. Here is marketing, top 5 interests. Here is agency, top 5 interests. Here is so-and-so, top 5 interests, so that as you go in to have those conversations, whether it is something that's strictly about business growth or internal management, you're always hitting on those things and identifying those things as the pillars of interest for division so-and-so. If you create a pillar of interest for your business departments, you know that when you're setting up your meeting and you're qualifying your agenda, it's, hey, I'm bringing up this point. How does it fit into these 5 things that they're interested in? Right? And then this way, again, it's better preparation, right? And I'm going to throw out the quick 5 Ps to everyone. Prior planning prevents poor performance. If you prior plan and you go in and you say, how do these things fit into these 5 points or these pillars of what that department is interested in, I think you'll be strengthened. I hope that answered your question, ma'am.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Diana came back with a question of, how would you recommend leveraging COVID best practices for BRM? Do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah. Thank you, Diana, for bringing up that question and reminding me I need to look into that. I haven't used COVID. I have a colleague who's actually in the healthcare division. When I was taking him through some things with the BRM, and he mentioned that they had some things in there that you could leverage for metrics. I personally haven't looked into it, so I apologize. I'm unable to speak to how to bridge the two.
And Aaron is asking, is there a BRM group on LinkedIn that people maybe can hook into?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. And Aaron, thank you. And if it's Aaron Barnes, I did receive your email. Thank you. And yes, there are 2 groups on LinkedIn. Again, if you look at my profile, you should see them there. I don't know them off the top of my head, but there are 2. And again, there's some great dialogue and exchange that happens there. So if you could join that, I believe they're open groups, but if they're not and you need me to authorize it, you can send it to me and I'll forward it to the chair of the group.
Oh, good. Thank you. Or you can give them to us. We can actually put them on the Q&A also and send it out to people. We'll put attach them. We'll get them off your LinkedIn for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Marie's asking, how much do you get involved in operational escalations?
Marie, it's a great question. Again, part of the great thing about being the BRM is that you're that primary point of contact. Some of the bad things about being a BRM is that you're that primary point of contact. So it depends on really the level. So like if a GM calls me because, hey, Ibrahim, I have a blue screen of death and, I've got a presentation in 5 minutes, I'm not going to say, yeah, well, call the service desk. I'm going to help with that escalation. I would say initially, because again, you had the stigma of IT is just break-fix solution provider, I would see a lot of that, and to kind of bridge that relationship, I would help and say, hey, listen, I know how to get you to where you want to be. This way, again, it comes down to that marketing, right? It's like, why do people give away free things? Because they really want you to come back and buy more later. I throw a bone here and there, and I don't get me wrong, I'm not replacing the service desk, but you want to build a relationship so you say, hey, I'm a solid person, and then when they hear you speaking at more strategic levels, it's really, I shouldn't be calling you about these things, should I? No, you shouldn't, but, I'm glad you recognize that, and hopefully going forward, the right, to make sure that you just stay within the process to try to keep things where they need to be. But I would say less frequently now than I did when we first initiated the role.
Okay. And I have a couple of more comments. Ibrahim, you are awesome. Excellent webinars. Thank you. So there's some more. They keep coming in. And I have a couple of more questions for you. I have a question from Judy. Hi, Judy. She found the BRM maturity chart very informative and thought-provoking. Is that copyright protected or available for reuse?
That is copyright protected by Leading Edge Forum. So that is there, and I did the appropriate APA thing that you have to do.
So you can get it. You just have to go through the right.
Yeah, you just have to go through the right network. Just reach out to Leading Edge Forum.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And Leslie has a question for you. She's asking, what is your BRM approach to establishing or improving service level agreements?
I want to answer that in two ways, Leslie. Today, where we're a bit more mature, improving that service level agreement is more around saying, this is where we are now. How do we improve on it, and does it make sense? Is it cost prohibitive? Right? You want to take a look at that. What are the additional costs? If I change my SLA and response in my service desk response times to this for this level of user, gold, platinum, silver, whatever, does that now boost up their incident costs to so-and-so? If I increase my my availability by a percentage, and that's going to throw another $1 million onto the allocation or whatever, again, it's just like project management, time, scope, and cost. We really have to just take a look at that. I personally take a PMI approach to it, where I'm looking at those three, the triple constraint, to determine, does this make sense for the business, and then presenting it as, here are the options. Do we remain status quo? Do we rev up? Or are we now in a space where we can kind of rev down because we have better things in place?
Oh, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for spending the time with us today, Ibrahim. That was a great presentation. Totally fantastic. And, you know, the comments coming back in from the listeners today, and the questions and the information that you've been providing them, it's just been very thought-provoking for everyone. So we really appreciate you taking the time to come in and join us today and impart all of your knowledge. You certainly have a lot for these people, and you can see from a lot of the questions that we're getting that the BRM role is in its infancy in a lot of places as well. So lots of, we appreciate your expertise and your experience to bring us more information on that.
Well, thank you so much.
And just once again, just a reminder that our next webinar is going to be on Thursday, June 27th at 11 a.m. And Jane Grohl, our co-founder, will present, should you establish a service management office? And we are looking forward to seeing you back here again next month. And most of you have requested pre-registration for the next webinar. If so, you'll receive a confirmation by email. For those of you that haven't requested pre-registration, we will be sending you an invitation for the next webinar. And as you log out, if you would please just take a minute to complete our post-webinar survey. Your feedback is very important to us, and we appreciate that. And we will continue to bring you practitioner presentations discussing ITIL implementation experiences and challenges. People, we know that you want to hear and learn from the practitioners' experiences. So if you would like to share your ITIL story on our webinar, please let us know. We'd be happy to work with you to make that happen at one of our monthly webinars. We hope that you have a great day. And again, more accolades for you. Wanda said, learned so much from this presentation. Thank you. Philip said, thanks for your excellent webinar. Artist said, oh, he wants to be pre-registered for the next webinar. Thank you, Artist. And thank you again, Ibrahim. I can't thank you enough for that presentation. It was just awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
And everybody have a great day. Goodbye.
Take care.